Mr. A here, saying, how y'all doing? Yo! Are you ready to rumble? Or should I say tumble? Cause I don't stumble or fumble like a cracker playing gumbo. Standing on the ground,
welcome to the Rumble. We are back and better than ever, helping you stay ready so you don't have to get ready. We don't want you sucker punch, so we're here each and every week helping you keep your guard up. I am the mouth of the South, Jeremy Lavelle with Remedy Claims Consulting. I'm at Claims Coach on Instagram and TikTok. Alongside of me, as always, is Mr. Brent Hooper of Max Claim Solutions of Baltimore, Maryland. We just call him the Beast of the East and the lovely, precociously pragmatic, audaciously ostentatious, and the love of my life, the one and only Baby Cakes, Miss Donna Lavelle. Hey, everybody, how's it going?
Did you ever use that before?
No, I have never used that.
I have never heard that arrangement of words in my life.
No, well, I mean, I don't think I've recycled
Cautiously
them.
something.
I didn't say cautiously.
Oh, just charismatic.
I didn't say
Ostentatiously.
charismatic either.
What'd you say?
Yeah. What episode are you listening?
I don't.
I said the
Donna?
the precociously pragmatic
Okay, that's just sounded.
and the audaciously ostentatious.
Oh, okay,
So,
okay.
which just means you're,
Audaciously ostentatious.
I have
Just-
to look these up after we record,
just means you're bold about being
so
smart.
I know whether or not you insulted me.
I did not insult you. I don't know. I did say sagaciously salacious once,
Yeah.
I think, or whatever. So, but yeah, hey, welcome to the show.
Hello.
It is a fine Sunday afternoon, which basically means that
Anything
Donna,
goes.
it means that anything goes.
We've been to
Okay.
church. We've been forgiven for whatever.
Yeah, it's it.
So yeah, so it's the first time we've done the show with a clean slate
Mhm.
for all you Catholics.
Yeah, we went to confession.
Went to confession.
Now it's a free for all.
I love the Catholic religion because you can do whatever you want as long as you tell somebody.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much it. Little homage there to Robin Williams. He told that joke. So, so what's going on in the world, Donna?
People have died.
Jesus.
Yeah. Let me see.
Yeah, we celebrated that last weekend, Brent. Catch up.
Yeah. So the deaths are Laura Forster.
That just hit him.
Have you guys ever heard of the Sex Pistols?
Yes, I have.
Have you heard of Johnny Rotten?
Yes.
Yes.
His wife of 50 years has just died.
Really? Johnny Rotten's wife died.
Yeah,
huh?
and she was the only one keeping him a nice person.
Really?
So now there's no.
I actually have a claim story about the Sex Pistols, believe it or not.
Uh-oh. Let me get through these deaths real quick, and you
Okay.
can tell me that. There is Bob Lee, the founder of Cash App. He was murdered. I think he owed somebody money, maybe. Last Wellander, the bassist for ABBA, he has passed to the other plane. Michael Lerner, he's an actor. Look him up. You will recognize him from 8 Men Out, Harlem Nights, and Barton Fink. Okay, tell me this Sex Pistols thing.
Well, I mean, you know the story.
Do I?
It's been several years ago, but a public adjuster actually called me in to go scope a loss at a venue called the Longhorn Ballroom right here in Dallas, Texas. And what is interesting about said Longhorn Ballroom, while it has had its day of many acts that have passed through just about every major country star that you could think of that ever came to Dallas would play the Longhorn Ballroom. Well, the Sex Pistols played the Longhorn Ballroom. And as I understand it now, the owner told me this. So all of you Sex Pistol fans out there that know all of the history, this is what I was told. Okay, so I am not proclaiming this as the absolute truth, but it is the stage that they last played on as a band is at the Longhorn Ballroom.
Nice. They reopened.
What am I?
for that.
Yeah, I knew that.
Google fact check that one.
You might have to do that, but
You might
yeah,
have to- you might have
supposedly
to
the
publish
last
a
place they
retraction.
played, as I was told it, was the Longhorn Ballroom in Dallas, Texas, and I
Shout out to the
worked
Longhorn Ballroom.
lost there. What's that?
Shout out to the Longhorn.
Shout out to the Longhorn Ballroom for still
Moment of
being
silence
around.
for Johnny Rotten's wife.
Moment of silence for Johnny. All right, that's enough of that. So,
What are we talking about today?
Well, I mean, we're going to go into kind of our second week of policy interpretation. We're going to dig in a little bit deeper on some of the different languages and kind of how the policy is laid out. We'll get into that. The different sections of the policy is what we're going to go to, and I just want you to know that we're going to discuss it as always, in 3 15-minute rounds. And when you hear this sound, you know that the round has begun. And when you hear this sound, the round is over. Now, just to be clear, anything that you hear that is cool or humorous, it is not Brent or I. Most likely, it is Donna over there tweaking and
twisting and tweaking.
I almost said tweaking and twerking, but she's not twerking. But it's Donna over there twisting and tweaking. Brent and I aren't really arguing. This is not a debate, though we may have a difference of opinion from time to time. It is really commentary about how we've handled claims in the past. So, guys, if you have any questions or comments, we always want you to leave those below.
Can I remind everybody of something?
Sure, go ahead.
We're talking about policy because you asked for it. So,
well, I mean, yeah, we did a survey, and the survey came back that policy was the thing that people wanted to know a lot.
That's why we're talking about this. So,
and that's why we're talking about it. So
listen to the show.
But we do welcome your questions and comments throughout the show. So we're going to go ahead and get started because round 1 starts right after this.
One of the most difficult claims you can work is a contents claim. It requires extreme detail and significant documentation. Ricky McGregor with Monarch Claim Services is the expert you need on your side. She will handle on-site evaluation, inventory, photo documentation, pricing, and overall contents claim organization. She will work with your team beginning to end so you can focus on the rest of the claim. Do your client a favor and call Ricky McGregor with Monarch Claim Services. You can reach her at 515-783-1434. That's 515-783-1434, or find her on the web at monarchclaimservices.com.
Round 1. The insuring agreement. So the insuring agreement is funny that my run sheet does not say that, but that is what round 1 was supposed to be, was the insuring agreement. I think we just had a miscommunication, and that's probably on me. But the insuring agreement is basically, first of all, I really just kind of want to say this. The policy is, we can talk about all the different ways that it's broken up and, and how it's laid out, and it has this section and that section, and it talks about this and it talks about this. But by and large, I believe Scott Hunziker said it best when he said a policy is one paragraph of a promise and 86 pages of excuses of why we're not going to keep it. And that's basically what a policy is. I kind of loved that assessment of it. But we're going to get into the insuring agreement. The insuring agreement is really quite simple. They're going to take that moment and they're going to tell you exactly what they're going to cover. And if you're looking at a HO3 policy, and what we're working with here is just a general HO3 policy is what we are. And I am going to read the insuring agreement as it follows in its entirety. We will provide the insurance described in this policy in return for premium and compliance with all applicable provisions of this policy. I used the word paragraph, Brett. I guess I should have used the word sentence. It is one sentence of a promise. And then Donna, I mean, I know that can you see how many pages of this policy?
It is 22 pages.
One sentence of promise and 28 pages of why we're not going to keep it. So And basically, that's exactly how it's laid out. And guys, if you want to know which policy that we're looking at so that you can follow along at home, we're going to have a link to that is going to link you to the Adobe site, and it's going to have a PDF viewer so you can look at all of this kind of stuff as we're looking at it. And the primary things that I'm kind of wanting to get into.
It's just a boilerplate. It's just a boilerplate HO3. That's all it is.
It is not from any given state. It comes straight from ISO. That is where I downloaded it, which is the organization that provides the policies. And then once they get into the hands of the carrier will add endorsements. It will change language, but it's the very kind of boilerplate on which all of it is sort of built. And that's the document that we're looking at. But yeah, so the insuring agreement is essentially that. And then after it goes into the agreement, it's going to define some things. That's where you're going to get your definitions. I want to add that there's a lot of carriers out there that don't use the HO3. There's tons and tons of them out there. They can use an all perils policy. They can call it whatever they want to call it. The most important thing is they submit it to the state as an insuring document, and if the state approves it, then they're good to go. So
remind me what an all perils policy is.
An all perils policy is if we don't exclude it, we cover it. Okay. That's the most simple way to put that. Brent, do you want to add anything to that at all?
No, sir.
So, and that's essentially what you're looking at when you're looking at a policy. That is by and large what most of us as public adjusters are looking to. That's what we're building off of this information here that you'll find in this HO3 policy. Again, if you read this policy, memorize this policy, and know it forwards and backwards, that and $4 at Starbucks will get you a cup of coffee. Okay, because you have to read the policy. You have to read the policy to know exactly what it says. And they'll all change. And so, Brent, for example, you sent something to me just the other day as it pertains to reading policies. You sent something to me the other day that was, go ahead and tell them kind of what the clause was. You were looking at
it's an endorsement, and says this endorsement changes the policy. Please read it carefully. And it says conditions applicable to windstorm or hail loss to exterior or roof surfacing. And so this is an endorsement added to the policy that is specifically applies to the peril of wind or hail. And in this endorsement, provides definitions for physical loss and what it is and what it isn't. It also defines the term repair. I've never seen this one before. I floated it by a couple attorneys. I floated it by a couple PAs.
What's your definition for repair?
Repair, in quotes, means to restore a portion of property less than the entire roof or exterior siding or any other component of exterior property to its functionality prior to the loss. I'm going to read that again. And Donna, maybe I'll scan this and send it over to you if you want to throw this in the link so folks can see this and we can put it up in the Facebook group. But again, repair, the definition is repair means to restore a portion of property less than the entire roof or exterior siding or any other component of exterior property to its functionality prior to this loss.
Only exterior?
On exterior, so you ask a good question. What's interesting is, there's a lot of interesting things, but it says to restore a portion of property, so less than the entire, and then they narrow it to roof, but they use the article or exterior siding or any other component of the exterior property. So again, it's like they go from property super broad, super general to roof or siding and then they go back to property. I mean, it's very interesting to its functionality. Like what's that?
It's like double talk.
Yeah, it really is, because the definition of physical loss, which immediately precedes this definition, is very interesting as well. So I don't want to hijack the entire episode with this endorsement, but aside from our the vote that we took, the poll that we took, this endorsement had something to do with why we're doing this episode.
No, you're
just interesting stuff.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is one of the reasons that we did do this. That's what spurred on the question. And I know a lot of people have questions about policy. And so and when you have things like this, because literally like the form that we were just talking about, it has decided of the 27 pages that this policy is, what it has decided is to define 11 of those terms. 11. That's it.
Oh,
All of the language
and
that's in here.
Here's something really interesting. So this boilerplate policy that we're looking at is 22 pages. The average sort of, I guess, page length, if you will, of a certified copy of a homeowner's policy that I see is usually between 55 and 70 pages. The reason I'm saying that is A, the one that we're looking at is very short, but B, this endorsement is just buried in here. This is one page of 65. That is separate. It's separate from the actual policy, which I know endorsements was the third segment, but so I guess if there's like some wisdom in here, it's simply that you need all the forms and endorsements. Like when you're going through the policy, and you're sizing up your loss and you're going through what is and what isn't, and you're going through the policy. So the policy says one thing, and then you've got this endorsement over here that says something else.
Well, exactly, because and that's where you see a lot of like Texas, like in a lot of Texas policies, there are a lot of carriers that have adopted what's called the Texas amendatory endorsement is what it is. So a lot of carriers have this across their policies, but most specifically what that thing does is it helps exclude mold from an otherwise inclusive policy of mold coverage. Okay. It allows them to do that sort of thing. And it also allows them to probably charge. There's a lot of things that go through when that kind of legislation gets pushed through. And again, I'm not an attorney, but when you see that Texas mandatory endorsement show up in a lot of places, it says, we have changed our policy for this endorsement. So literally the whole idea behind it is sometimes you have to read that first before you dig into some of the nuts and bolts of the actual boilerplate policy, because you want to know sort of what they've changed, and you can change the language as it's going through, because especially if it says this replaces this paragraph, generally the reason that they're pointing to a specific paragraph is because what comes before it matters and what comes after it matters. And so they're putting it in a place.
Kind of like the Bible.
Yep. Yeah.
Context
kind of like that. So Jeremy, to your point. Yeah. Context matters. Context is key. So Jeremy, to your point, this endorsement, the first verbiage of this says this endorsement modifies section 1 conditions in the policy form with respect to a covered loss to the exterior or roof surfacing of a dwelling or building that is covered under coverage A or B and is caused by the peril of windstorm or hail. So to your point, this one page changes it modifies that whole portion of the policy.
It segments the dwelling, whereas the dwelling is addressed in its entirety in that part of the policy. In general, they have now segmented the dwelling, and the coverage ain't the same.
Yep. As it pertains to good catch. As it pertains to the dwelling and those two covered perils.
Yeah.
So this doesn't have anything to do with
fire
or water or a tornado. What this has to do with is specifically a wind or hailstorm. And you know what's really interesting about this particular claim is that there was crazy hail. Maryland I've never seen hail like this in Maryland.
Nothing happens till it does, right?
Yeah, right. There was also a tornado. So if we wanted to get real weird about this and dig into the minutia and all of that, it begs the question of, is this even worth, as it pertains to the loss that I'm working on? Does this endorsement, does this any of this language even apply?
And does
because there was a tornado as well.
They may call that a windstorm though, because you know what I'm saying. But it could, but it's an additional weather phenomenon that has existed. It's an additional, more unlikely peril, because what they're trying to do, what it seems like they're trying to do, is they're trying to exclude the common event of wind, because windstorm can come. I mean, there's a lot of things that don't have to be there. You know, it's like you can have a windstorm and have no rain. You can have a windstorm and have absolutely no precipitation, no weather, no lightning, and a lot of these other things that come as a peril of a thunderstorm. They're declassifying it down to a windstorm. And so if it declassifies down, you can't automatically be inclusive and classify back up. I don't know, because they're saying the most simplest of wind is not covered. And so the most complicated of wind, which I would think is hurricane and tornado, a separate peril from windstorm. That would be my question, because it's cyclonic. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Let me clarify something. I think you misspoke. It's not that windstorm isn't covered. It's just subject to all of this rigmarole. Wind and hail.
I got, okay, fair enough. It's not that it's not covered. It's that it's subject to these conditions. And I mean, if I'm trying to be a desk adjuster or somebody who's trying to dig their heels in at the carrier, I want to say tornado is wind, Bubba.
It's a mighty wind.
It ain't the rain that tore the shingles off of it, you know.
Tornado is wind.
Well, and is that going to come up? But you would then have to go back to the policy definitions to see, and it doesn't define it. So now therein lies a conversation to be had with the carrier of whether or not it classifies as wind, you know, and it's, but the thing is that the peril of a tornado comes with something that wind is. When you think of wind, I don't think of a suction. I think of something that blows. I don't think, but I guess it could be anything. You know what I mean? The wind's coming from somewhere.
Believe it, right? Suction, that's still wind.
Yeah, I guess it's, well, or is it? It depends on what
creates a breeze. Either way.
Yeah, one way or the other, whether it's blowing or sucking, I guess there's still a breeze. So it just depends on where the force is. Anyway,
what's wrong with this one?
Man, we have gone way off the rails on, but that's the point, is that when you're sitting here and you're interpreting policy, these definitions, this very conversation, if you don't know it, then it is incredibly difficult to move forward through the policy and understand what's going on. So that is why that's why you want to go in and look at all of this stuff sort of at its whole. You know what I mean? And Brent, I'll let you tag that on, because this is an endorsement that affected the way the entire policy is read.
As it pertains to this loss, yes. And so I know that we had a little slip up at the beginning, but in terms of starting with the insuring agreement, which, by the way, I'm glad we did that, because round one was supposed to be about like general exclusions. And
it was.
So to dovetail this, what's really interesting is the policy reads the way that the policy does. We cover this, we cover that, we cover this, we cover that. We don't pay for this, we don't pay for that. This one sheet of paper changes all of that.
It does.
And this one sheet of paper introduces exclusionary language into the policy that isn't readily available. Like, so if you're just reading through, like if you're reading through an incomplete copy of the policy and you don't read the conditions and the definitions set forth in this endorsement, you're literally missing the boat. and I again, as it relates to general exclusions, well, it's interesting. Every policy has their general exclusions and this and that, and we'll pay for this, and we're not going to pay for that. Never mind the fact that exclusionary language is often misinterpreted. You've got these endorsement curveballs that you got to keep your eyes open for as well.
You do. So, and you know, we didn't get as much into exclusions, but kind of the way the policy's laid out is it goes, this is what we'll do. You know, and by the way, these are some things that we're not going to do. But if you've made it all the way to this part, is what round 2 is all about. The conditions of, if you've made it this far, now we're probably going to pay you some money. And since we're going to pay you some money, we're going to get into round 2 right after this. When choosing someone to help with your online marketing, make sure you go with someone that has years of experience. Our good friend Sally at Thrive has over 20 years of digital marketing experience. She can build you a beautiful 15-page, sleek, interactive website, post on your social media platforms multiple times a week. She can do a video, an amazing CRM to manage and maintain and nurture your clients' text, email marketing, review generation, a business listing on 60 plus search engines, including 3 voice networks, appointment scheduling, estimates, invoices, payment processing, and more. She will also create for you on Google, a Facebook page, and Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. If you need these for your businesses, she'll help you create those pages on all of those sites. You already have these pages. She'll optimize them for you as well. Call or message Sally today. If you want to get started, you can reach her at 214-789-1651. Again, her name is Sally Brigance. Her number is 214-789-1651. And you'll also get a landing page the day you sign up. When you send her a referral that signs up with her, she'll credit your billing account. Logos are also available. And she also offers a lead generation service and SEO, search engine optimization, where she can guarantee you to appear on the first page of Google or your money back. It is spelled THRYB. And you can find my good friend Sally Brigance, and that's spelled SALLIE. Brigance, BRIGANCE, and she can be reached once again at 214-789-1651. Round 2, conditions. So just to kind of keep that conversation going, I just wanted to get the clock going as we were about to bleed into conditions anyway. You've gone through all of these exclusions and the boilerplate exclusions, and I just want to hit this real quick as we get into conditions. Do not let them weaponize an exclusion against you as a cause of loss that you're not claiming. Those exclusions aren't if it's present, it's if it's the primary cause of loss is why that thing is excluded. So wear and tear, you cannot file a claim because your roof's old. That's not a claim-worthy event. All roofs have wear and tear. Everything has wear and tear, and you can't file a claim because it's old. Old is excluded as a cause of loss. That's what it is. And you'll see these exclusions weaponized. And wear and tear is the one that I see the most. Is there something you want to jump in there with, Brent, on exclusions that you hate wrestling other than wear and tear?
Well, you already mentioned age, and that kind of comes with the territory of wear and tear. The other one is condition. And if anybody's listening, I completely understand if there's a part of you that's going like, yeah, no shit. And that's how we feel too. So the thing is, it's like, yeah, no shit, it's old, or no, of course it has wear and tear or whatever. It has wear and tear starting the second that anything is ever installed, whether it's a roof shingle, a countertop, a gutter, a freaking shutter, it doesn't matter. It begins to wear and tear the day you take the plastic off of the product. So, but the thing is that a lot of times, right, wrong, or indifferent, I find myself in these conversations, especially on interior losses, where for some reason, and it's never spoken, it's never overt per se, it's just that the carrier or the adjuster doesn't want to pay for something because maybe something isn't well kept. And so that's the thing that, I find myself in these conversations where, the kitchen was never nice. The kitchen has always been really dirty and worn and lived in. And sometimes I feel like adjusters get that confused with what they owe for. Did that make sense, Jeremy?
It makes complete sense. It makes absolute complete sense. And yeah, I'm going to tell you by and large, Brent, I mean, the most difficult claim to work is where you know that there is legitimate bona fide damage due to a covered peril. And it's almost unquestionable, even by the carrier. But when you have a place that is in just general disrepair,
yep.
and that can be for a variety of reasons.
Yep.
Look, I don't want to judge. This is not to judge anybody. There's a lot of people that are out there struggling with a lot of things, and the last thing on their list is whether or not they're going to be able to put a new fresh coat of Thompson's water seal on their deck. Okay, there's just some other shit to pay for, and there's a level of that I understand. Do you know what I'm saying? There's a lot of people out there trying to do what they can to keep their house up, but whether or not, cleaning, keeping that thing down. I just recently worked a dryer fire. Technically, it's considered a fire of negligence. It's because that there wasn't proper maintenance that was kept up. Probably the lint hose wasn't cleaned out, those sorts of things. And that's what ignited the fire, And so the carrier is going to look at that as a fire due to negligence. Okay. And whether or not somebody either has the wherewithal, the intelligence, who to call, the funds to call somebody to do it right, all of these kinds of things, you know what I'm saying? There's owning a house, there's a lot to it, and that's one of the things that the carrier really is going to get into the condition situation. You know what I mean? And this thing has coverage because it does cover your lack of knowledge, your ignorance, your negligence. It does cover those sorts of things. It will not cover your willful act, but just because, I didn't know is a defense and under which they'll pay. Now they're going to charge more premium for you, but it is something that they will pay under. So it's when you get in, when we start digging into the what and the why and the how all of this kind of thing gets done, you have to understand people are at different levels, and a house in disrepair can be in that situation for a multitude of reasons. Now, I have been in houses where it just seemed like that they were capable of keeping it up and they just didn't. Or you've been in situations where maybe there was an infirmity or something like that kept them from keeping their house in well-maintained order. You can be in situations where people deserve to have a roof put on because they have hail damage, but the rotten soffit won't let them install, or the rotten shingle mold, or wherever it is, the rotten decking, and the loss becomes so much larger due to their negligence. But that's what the insurance carrier is covering, is that they have to also pay access, but those are difficult losses to adjust. My most difficult loss, and I think I got lost there in the middle of that, but I came back around that those are hard to work. They're really, really difficult to work
because, they're difficult to work on a lot of fronts, and I think if you're reading between the lines with me on this, you understand where I'm coming from. They're difficult in the sense that the insurance company looks at it a certain way, and the lens through which they're analyzing this is not what any of us want, so to speak. And the reasons almost don't matter. It's like, hey, this place is in ill repair or whatever. But it doesn't negate what you owe for, And so as a public adjuster, sometimes I feel like, and you may or may not agree with me.
Yeah.
It's like I kind of, from a business sense, like, I understand why a carrier adjuster might look at it as token. Like, I work for the policyholder, and frankly, you guys too. And insofar as they're paying their freaking premium and their policy was active during or when this loss occurred, it's like, I don't really know none of these other conditions of the house even matter. Like, this is a covered loss.
Right.
And you have reasonable repairs to be completed in a workmanlike manner. Whether or not it was dirty, corroded, not taken care of, none of that shit really matters. So those are tricky. They are,
because if you've got a house that's
a lot of fronts.
Right. It's you got a house that's not taken care of. They've got a water heater in the attic where you'll find them a lot in this area. They haven't taken care of the house. They haven't cleaned the house. They've got, pet hair everywhere. Nothing against people with pets or whatever. You can tell that the dog has chewed up the sofa and he doesn't necessarily go outside to use the restroom. Yes, I've been in those situations. There's 47 cats running around the place. And because the water heater was in just the right spot, they're just about going to get every room in this house remodeled, painted. They're going to get new floors in all the places. And you're going to end up remodeling almost this entire house when it was really, it's just the way that the loss works. And that's the way that insurance works. And I know as an independent adjuster, you kind of roll your eyes as you're writing this claim because you somehow in your head will try to start ascertaining whether or not they deserve this. And that is a bad, bad, bad road to go down. They paid a premium. They have coverage no matter how extensive the damage gets. As long as it is within the limits of liability, they're owed for the loss. And I have wrestled with it too. So just know that I know that your moral compass is kind of going off here, that this just doesn't appear to be right, but this is not about right and wrong. This is about coverage that's been purchased.
That's right. Hey, what conditions round 2? I feel like we went into almost a different iteration of conditions real quick, but a couple general conditions of the policy, a couple that are coming to mind for me are duties after a loss, the appraisal clause, the loss settlement agreement, loss payment.
All of those are conditions. Thank you so much for getting us back on track there.
This freaking endorsement. Oh, by the way, not to beat this to death, but conditions are really important and you want to read them. But like this condition, or Jesus, this endorsement that we talked about in round 1 also introduces a hour option clause. So what is, and I guess if there's, I'm kind of walking and chewing bubblegum here as it pertains to exclusionary language and all that stuff. And I know we're going to get into endorsements in round 3, but this particular endorsement on this type of loss or this wind and hailstorm, this endorsement introduces a right to repair option for the carrier. This endorsement changes the freaking policy insofar as there's a wind or hailstorm. So conditions, some general ones, your loss settlement agreement, right to repair calls, loss payment, duties after a loss. You got to read this stuff. You have to, because it matters. It completely can change the trajectory of a claim. 1,000%.
Right. And interestingly enough, about that one endorsement, I wonder how they would treat wind-driven rain.
It's interesting. I'm sitting here talking about having a complete policy. I have the renewal pack for this. This is a new claim that I just signed last week. I don't have the whole policy. So I don't know, because I don't have the rest of the policy to run these endorsements, all these forms and endorsements up against.
Right.
Well,
and I don't know if they're going to say wind-driven rain is a part of windstorm, but it's still a separate peril, because they'll be the first ones to say, oh, no, we didn't look at wind. This was a hailstorm. Yeah. Or we didn't look at the hail damage. You filed for wind. And it's like, look, man, what we filed for was an occurrence that occurred on a date of loss. is what we had. And you wanted to know what the primary causation of loss was. Well, it was that storm. So however you want to classify it, it was all the noise that was being made at 8:30 on Friday night. That's the one we're talking about. So you pick your peril, Bubba, whatever one you think is most relevant to you guys and your bookkeeping methods over there. I'm happy for you to pick whichever one, but we had a little bit of wind. We had some rain that came in, which is water, you know, and it wasn't necessarily driven by wind. I don't know how it got in. It's like water water goes where water wants to go. So,
Yeah.
it's
and on this particular property, yes, we have 5 ring cameras and they were all broken by the hail. So what direction you want to go?
Yeah, right. I mean, however you want to look at this thing, and I realize that you just talking about what is the peril that you're speaking of when you say windstorm. It's interesting that they'll go in and they will define all of these different things that pertain to what it is, but they're not really wanting to define exactly what it is they cover and what they don't cover and how they do it. And that's where I'm saying it's like you went to all of this care to be specific on what your options are and all of the like of that, and whether or not we're going to even extend coverage on these kinds of things or not coverage. What was the endorsement is basically, it's not whether or not it extends coverage, it's whether or not it will.
It's not so much whether or not it's covered, it's how they're going to cover it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's how they're going to cover it. And so, and they changed. Well, I mean, back to what I'm saying here, but they don't want to actually cover what the peril is. They don't want to define what the peril is. They're going to define all of the ways that they're going to cover it. They're going to put all of their options in on whether they're going to repair or replace, which doesn't get them out of indemnity. It just is, so long as indemnity can be achieved through a repair, then a repair is an option. Absolutely. And I think that clause is dumb.
Well, dude, this clause
basically mean we don't have to indemnify you for it. We can just repair it.
Look,
what it's saying.
Under the loss settlement provision of this endorsement, I'll read this to you. And I hate doing this based on the fact that you really do need to, you've got to absorb these things as a whole.
Right.
Like, and you said it best earlier. What came before and what comes after is just as important as what the freak you're looking at in the middle. Right. So, but let me read this to you because this is interesting. In the event of a quote repair, the above provisions do not require or guarantee a match of roofing or siding materials. The quote repair is intended to return the damaged property to pre-loss condition without regard to cosmetic appearance. Materials used to make the quote repair may vary in color, shading, dimensions, pattern, and composition. So, when you say, insofar as we can indemnify the policyholder with a repair, how in the hell do you achieve indemnity with that?
Well, I guess that's what they're saying is they're excluding the indemnity out of it. But it did also say, did it not say pre-loss condition?
It did. Pre-loss condition without regard to cosmetic appearance. Period. Materials used to make the quote repair may vary in color, shading, dimensions, pattern, and composition.
So, yeah, it's like we'll use like, kind, and quality except for where we can't. And when we can't, we can go lesser.
Right. So we're going to go head up there with some duct tape and Elmer's glue because the policy says we can, sort of. Right.
Right.
It's tricky stuff.
Yep. And again, that particular endorsement, there's a lot of endorsements that kind of stand on their own, but this one actually replaces a piece of the policy. And those are the ones that you really want to take a look at. But the conditions in everything that you look at in the conditions, guys, I mean, yes, there are things that Brent brought up. There's the duties after the loss, the information that the proof of loss has to have if you're submitting one, I would say this is the documentation every claim would need. Do you know what I mean? And so, and there is no cutting that corner. This is the documentation that needs, if you want to sue them, all of these things. And I guarantee you, if all of these conditions aren't met and there's something that you want to go and they're wrong, it won't matter. And that's the most important thing that I can tell you is no matter how right you are, no matter how much breach they're in, if you have not fulfilled the conditions, it won't matter. You're both in breach at that point in time. So conditions, super important. And I will just say this before we get into round 3. everything matters here because insurance policies are really designed to be centered around an occurrence. Okay. And so we can think of all of these different anecdotes or different situational and try to get different situational understanding. Well, what if this happens and then this happens? And look, any of that is possible. Any combination of anything, you can stack this burger however you want to, but at the end of the day, you're going to have to look at the situations and the perils and how they came about and the damage that they've done in this situation, and then apply the policy to it. And look, if this endorsement's in there, it's going to be real tough to get an indemnifying outcome after all is said and done, because they did not buy an indemnifying policy apparently. Now, I think that there are ways I could argue around it, and that's a completely different show. And maybe we'll bring this back and figure out how we're going to do it, or case study the one that this is on specifically. But guys, you at the end of the day, this is what they've agreed to.
Yep. Hey, you know what? Can I throw something in before we go to round 3?
Sure.
When policyholders or as a public adjuster, when policyholders or contractors or whatever, other people that are not public adjusters, this is why, and we did an episode on this, like expectation setting and stuff like that.
Yeah.
This is that gorilla behind the curtain that no one knows about. No one.
Yeah, when you're setting expectations, you're not aware it's like in there. Yeah.
Look, everybody's going to want, need, and desire a silver bullet and expect you to know everything and this and that. And I'm the guy saying it's impossible. Unless you have all the details in front of you, it's impossible. And so take that for whatever it's worth.
And I would just dovetail onto this real quick before we get into round 3. There is a really good reason carriers have to provide 60 days or 90 days in some states to provide the proof of loss. Now, if you're not in a proof of loss state, disregard what I'm saying here. But when I look at that 60 days, I understand now why it takes so long to get all of that information together, because you need time to review the policy, figure out what the coverages are, go get the documentation, and what is really required to prove this loss can take up to 60 days. I can certainly see that as it pertains to getting quotes and estimates and you don't even know what if they agree with your repair method. You know what I'm saying? So that's it's super important to that. But we'll get into more endorsements, because round 3 starts right after this. The Pain of the Claim is looking for sponsors, and we would love to promote a business that provides services or equipment to public adjusters, restoration companies, and roofing contractors and general contractors. Examples would be like safety gear, roofing-related products, restoration equipment, payment services, CRMs, reporting services, expert services, anything like that. We want to help you tell your story and get you together with the people that really need your help. So give us a call. We can get your name out there and we can grow with you. Round 3, endorsements.
Where do you want to start?
Look, basically what I want to, there are certain endorsements that are kind of common everywhere you go. So you've got like ordinance and law. That's a very common endorsement. I want to talk about this in respect, but I'll give you the list of other ones. You often see the mold endorsement. If mold is going to be covered, it is usually addressed through endorsement. You've got this matching endorsement. Sometimes you'll see a matching endorsement come in that people are actually charged premium for. And then you've got these exclusionary endorsements that take away from stuff where the policy might have ordinarily provided for it, but they're going to redefine how it's going to be covered and what the repair process and what kind of coverage you bought. Yep. Because more than likely, like the endorsement that we've been discussing the entire episode, more than likely there was going to have to be a reduction in premium. It's like, this is the endorsement, here's your new premium. And because they're not fully covering the roof in this situation, or they're redefining how it will be covered.
Yeah. Another couple of them endorsements that come to mind for me are like extended replacement cost. Not, you mentioned a match endorsement, but on the, I guess on the flip side or oppositely, you have those roof surface endorsements with sort of like a, how would you describe that? It's like a predetermined not a depreciation schedule, but it kind of is, you know, it's like,
well, they age the roof generally. And
right. It's
basically,
like
yeah, they age the roof. And then now you're seeing those things. Basically, if they get up over 15 years, the roof's just is going to be settled straight up at ACV, or it may not even. I know people that are getting letters in the mail basically to get their roof replaced, or they're going to drop their insurance.
I literally, it's funny you say that. In the last, we'll say 4 weeks, I've had probably 3 or 4 conversations with either prior clients or just like friends of mine that have gotten letters that's basically like, hey, you need to replace your shit or we're not renewing. It's super interesting.
I could get into the story if everybody wants me to get into the story. You know about it, Brent. I had a client, we just signed a client that she got that letter in the mail.
Oh yeah, that's entertaining. Share that.
Well, it's not really endorsements, but I think,
yeah, it's not endorsements.
But what it has to do with, it has to do with the age of her roof. It's completely centered around the age of her roof.
Yeah.
And this is a previous client of mine. I've worked 2 losses for this individual. Both losses, the previous losses were overlapping. One was due to the freeze of 2021, and the other one was due to a failed condensation pan in the attic. And so while they were completely unrelated, they were overlapping, and I had to go in and work both of those losses for these people. And we won. By and large, we had a great experience with the entire thing. Well, the carrier, out of the blue, probably due to her roof age, basically said, if you don't replace your roof, we're going to drop you. And so she's got 2 claims in her claim history. Okay. She's got 2 claims in her claim history. And they said, if you don't replace your roof, we're going to drop you. Well, this particular carrier has some rather strict rules on claim history and whether or not they'll renew you and stuff like that. The carrier is going to remain nameless, but I will tell you that I see a lot of carriers doing this. And basically the reason they sent her the letter was based on her roof age at the time that they took insurance out years and years and years ago. They just didn't want to cover the roof anymore. This particular roof is a polymer roof. Okay. And I am not a roofer. I don't pretend to be a roofer, but it's basically one of those rubberized kind of plastic, see my air quotes, supposedly hail proof shingles. And it's an expensive roof. She had a quote so she calls out her roofer to get a quote based on this. Roofer tells her it's going to be $225,000, $250,000 to replace this roof. That sounds right to me. It's a 7,000 square foot home. It is a great big, it's a $2 million home in a very nice part of Dallas. Okay. And so the roofer says that, but by the way, I think you might have some hail damage on this roof. And so being the good roofer that he is, says he's got hail damage. She immediately calls me and says, I think I might have an insurance claim. So I sent Andrew. No, you can't have his number. I sent Andrew over there, and the carrier opens up coverage to repair the roof. Now, in order for her to keep her insurance, she wasn't allowed to repair the roof. She had to replace the roof, but they would say that we're only going to repair the roof. They open up coverage to repair the roof. Now it's a claim. Now it's something that has been brought back to my desk, and we're going to see how this whole thing turns out. But by and large, they've already told me that they don't believe that the roof is repairable.
Yep.
There's no maintenance that can be done to this roof that is going to make it insurable. So why would you recommend something that would leave them in an uninsurable state? So you're
gonna have fun with that one.
That's going to be now here's the downside is more than likely if they do pay this claim, they're going to drop her anyway, because that's going to be the 3rd claim in as many years, and they're going to non-renew her, or they may drop her anyway. And the hard thing is getting insurance these days when you have a claim history like this is going to be a challenge for her. So and she's already filed the claim. She'd filed the claim prior to talking to me, because I told her I told her, I said, I would secure new insurance before you did that. But, but anyway, this is where we are now. And, I am seeing insurance do this, especially when it comes to roof age. And if you don't have a roof on there or it's too old of a roof, that's what they're trying to do, is get you on a policy where they can amend it to put this very schedule that Brent is talking about it on. And they're going to depreciate it. They're going to determine what the lifespan of the roof is, and they're going to depreciate it by year. And that's how that's going to work. And everybody is moving to this policy because, like I said, so many claims in Texas, they're trying to change how roofs get covered. And it is going to be less coverage, not more. I guarantee you.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. That's a really interesting scenario. For our endorsements round, I wrote down weaponizing endorsements, and what I stole your verbiage, but what I had in mind was how some of these endorsements that are designed to actually increase or supplement coverage the carriers end up trying to utilize it to cap coverage.
They do. That's often what they'll do. Yes.
And it can get a little bit, and I know you run into this too. It can get a little bit hairy sometimes because of the ambiguity of some of the language of these endorsements. The one that's coming to mind is either a mold endorsement or coverage endorsement, B, O&L, or C, the roofing and siding restoration endorsement, which is just it's a match endorsement for roofing and siding. These things are purchased, additional premium dollars are paid, but I see it a lot where somehow or another the carrier contorts the presence of this endorsement to actually negatively affect the homeowner.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
it's not
Hence the
how
word weaponizing.
Yeah, it's not how it's supposed to work. But this stuff comes up, and it makes you do a backflip as a public adjuster, because you're sitting at your desk going, "What in the hell is going on?" And it's such a contorted interpretation of the policy.
Well, it is, but you also have a lot of times you'll have the contractors under telling the truth and looking at something. It's like, look, we've got to repair this roof. What would repair this roof? This shingle is not available anymore. So it's a discontinued shingle, or it's an obsolete shingle, whether it's a composition shingle or a roof tile or whatever. Either way, it is discontinued and no longer there. And that has been used as a weapon often to get a full roof replacement where the damage didn't necessarily warrant it, but you couldn't make the repair and so the carriers wrote this thing. So don't be careful about why you want to replace a roof, because we want coverage to be there. And if you're going and trying to get coverage extended by holding them over a barrel, is usually a pretty bad strategy. Now, it's nice when you have the extra thing behind it, if you want to add the fact, oh, and by the way, the shingle's unavailable, but it also can't be repaired. Yeah. It also can't be this. It's an unrepairable roof, which doesn't trigger that $10,000 endorsement that you were talking about.
Geographically speaking, and there was a place in time where, I guess the word matching was somewhat of a silver bullet.
Yeah.
Or a discontinued shingle or siding material
was the silver bullet.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Silver bullet. Yeah, it really was. Absolutely. And it's just not anymore.
No. And the policies have changed, and the policies have, some of them specifically detail that they don't care about that.
That's just a good example of them moving the goalposts and not telling anybody. That's all that is. And it's like, and they're going to